Love lives here.
So, good morning. Thank you. All right. So, once again, good to see all of you here and present and accounted for. So, last night, after we went and watched Devil Wears Prada 2, it was fun. So, thank you, Allison, for the gift card so that we could go watch Meryl Streep in all of her finery and all the fun stuff of that. But after that, we were sitting on the sofa, and Paisley was sitting between us, where it's become her new favorite spot. And Dora, our other greyhound, or our greyhound, who's new to the family, came in, and she was coming in to say hello to me because, as much as Ed is a wonderful guy, I am Dora's person. So she was coming in to approach me to say, "Hi, Dad." And Paisley was like, "Arr, arr, arr." So anytime Dora gets too close, Paisley, in all of her 15-pound chewiness, snarls and growls to let Dora know that, hey, there is not enough love to go around. He is my dad, and you need to back away. Fortunately, Dora doesn't understand that so much. She just kind of looks at her and still looks at me longingly with those doe eyes. "Please pet me, Daddy." Right? But it's so interesting how dogs even are like, "No, there's not enough. He's mine." They become territorial. They get to the point where it's like, "No, this is mine, he's mine. There's not enough to go around. So I'm not going to share." Oliver was this way too when Paisley first entered the picture. Oliver was like, "You're still here?" For the first 3 days, he would sit and stare at the wall and growl when Paisley was anywhere near me or Eddie. He no longer does that, but he will push her out of the way to get love. He's now 10, she's now 9. So this has been going on for a long time. And Eddie and I keep reassuring them, we have enough love to go around. There's more than enough. There's ample. There's plenty of love to go around. But they just don't get that. They want what they want, and they're very insistent upon it. Kind of like a really good metaphysician. They know what they want, and they're really insistent upon it, right? Until they get it. But how many times have we in our lives thought that there's not enough to go around? How many times have we thought, oh, there's not enough love, there's not enough opportunity, there's only so much money, there's only so much room, there's only so much belonging, right? And if we're not careful, then this scarcity thinking becomes a scarcity mindset, which then becomes a scarcity worldview, when really it should only be a temporary emotional reaction, right? This scarcity mindset convinces us that life is a competition. It convinces us that someone else's blessing takes away from our own, and that welcoming more people somehow leaves less room for generosity is risky, that openness is dangerous. But we, beloveds, know differently, don't we? Well, Earl does. We know differently. Told you, Julian, they're going to make me work for it today. Right? Because spirit is inexhaustible. Spirit is inexhaustible. It is impossible to use up the infinite. It is impossible to use up the infinite. So if spirit is infinite, then love is not limited. Compassion is not limited. Creativity is not limited. Possibility is not limited. Belonging is not limited. There is always a bigger table than what we think. And we are constantly being invited to this table. Spirit is saying, here you go. You have prepared a table before me in the presence of mine enemies, my negative thinking, my enemies. There is no enemy, right? We don't believe in a boogeyman with horns and a red tail and a pitchfork, right? We don't believe in that. The enemies are the ways our negative thinking, our stinking thinking, as some folks say. That's where the enemy is. And so the table has been laid before you, but are we willing to accept it? The table has been laid, but are we willing to accept it? Are we willing to accept the gifts that have been set before us, knowing that this table is bigger than we think? This table has room for absolutely every single one of us and then some. The table is infinite. The gift keeps giving. The giver keeps giving. Ernest Holmes defined love as the ever-givingness of spirit. It is always giving. It is always providing. But we, my beloveds, we get stuck in that idea of there's not enough. There's scarcity. If I share, then there won't be enough for somebody, there won't be enough for me, or there won't be enough to go around. Like the dogs, there's not enough love to go around. But you and I both know that that is not true. We live in an infinite abundance. But how did this come to be that we think this way? Well, many of us grew up in systems that taught us to protect our seat at the table. You earn your place. You got to prove your worth. You got to compete for approval. You got to compete for attention. And you got to stay inside the right group. You got to find your way in, and then once you're in, you got to stay inside that right group. Some of us learned that belonging is actually conditional. That if you aren't acceptable enough, you aren't good enough, then you're kicked out. That if you belong, you better believe and behave correctly. You better love correctly. You better vote correctly. You better look correctly. You better fit the culture. And don't you dare make anybody feel uncomfortable. But that's not the spiritual path, is it? That's a path of fear. It's a path of fear that's dressed up like order. And spirit does not operate through exclusion. Spirit operates through expansion. It operates through expansion. You look at the trees outside, right? It doesn't say, well, I think I have enough branches now, so I'm just going to stop growing branches. The tree continues to grow. The ocean continues to wave. The sunrise does not ration light. It falls upon all. Creation itself is full of abundance, and yet we humans try to build tiny emotional tables and then defend them as if our very survival depends on it. But our survival does not depend on defending what we already have. Our survival depends on expanding, on growing, on sharing. We get to decide how we're going to share it. We get to decide what is available. We get to choose what it is that we want to experience in our lives by saying yes, yes, yes to the abundance, to the good that already is, to the good that keeps serving itself up to us on giant platters. All of us are included. But we got to say yes. We have to say yes. So there's a parable in Matthew and in Luke. Matthew, you'll find it, chapter 22. Luke, you'll find it in chapter 14. It's the parable of the wedding banquet. Anybody heard of it? A few of you? Yep. Okay. Cool. So the parable of the wedding banquet basically goes something like this. We'll paraphrase because, it was all written down years and years and years after anything may or may not have happened, right? So the parable goes like this. There is a rich man who wants to throw a wedding banquet for his son. And so he sends his messengers out into the world or into the area, inviting all the people, or inviting his cohorts, inviting his friends, his family, people of nobility, people of stature. He sends them out and he invites them to the wedding. Person after person after person says no, makes an excuse. Oh, I have to tend my goats. Because, that's the thing. I have to take care of this, or, oh, I'm going to be gone, I'm going to be out of town, or excuse after excuse after excuse. And some people are so rude about it that they actually kill the messengers. Because, back in the day. So they actually kill the messengers. Well, this enrages the king, right? Because you killed my people? What's going on? Right? So he sends people out. He sends his soldiers out to kill the people that said no, that had hurt his people, right? It sounded like, where are you going with this, Jeff? I know, it's a parable. What can I tell you? Okay? Right? So then he sends the next group of messengers out, and he sends the next group of messengers out, inviting everyone in the town. He sends them to the streets and says, come, bring everybody into the wedding. Bring everybody to the wedding banquet. Include everybody. That includes the poor. That includes the destitute. That includes the homeless. That includes absolutely everybody you can find and you can see. And so the servants do that. And then the servants say, guess what? We still have more room. And so he goes, okay, then go to the crossroads. Go to the outskirts of town. Go to those streets and bring people in. Right? Bring them in. And so he makes the room, this table, big enough to include everyone. He includes all. And then in one version of the story, there's this one man who comes in, and he's not wearing the proper wedding attire, the wedding garment. The wealthy man says, why aren't you dressed appropriately? And he goes, I don't know. And so he kicks the guy out, and there was gnashing of teeth, because there's always gnashing of teeth, right? Because he kicks the guy out. So you're probably thinking, okay, the story talks about inclusion, but yet he's excluding, and what about the people at the beginning who decided not to come and all that kind of stuff? Am I about right with where you guys are, where this is landing? Yeah, kind of, sort of? Yeah. So we don't look at this literally, never literally. What we do is we look at it metaphorically and we look at it metaphysically. This is how we approach these subjects. This is how we approach these texts, through a metaphysical interpretation. So the people who said no initially are the naysayers. He's extending this invitation, and they don't have the consciousness to say, hey, that sounds like a good idea. Let me attend. Instead, they poo-poo it. They say, no, I don't have time for that business. I don't have time for that silliness. I'm going to tend my goats. Okay? And so then there's those people that are like, no, and why are you bothering me? And so he sends his people out to this is not cool. This is not cool, right? So these are the people cutting the messenger, cutting themselves off from the good, from what is available. They're cutting the messenger. They're cutting themselves off from the available good. So what does he do? He opens it up to everybody. It's everyone. No discrimination. prejudice, just opens it up and invites everyone to come in. And when they think they've invited everybody, there's still space. And so they invite even more people in and fill the hall because there's room at this wedding banquet. There's room at this feast for all. And so you're going, yeah, Jeff, but what about the one guy? So the one guy shows up, enters the room, enters for the feast, but he's only done work on the external. He's one of those that does a spiritual bypass. It's all good, it's all God. He's one of those that knows the words, but hasn't embodied it. He knows the principle, but doesn't live it. He knows, but he hasn't embodied. He hasn't put on the proper wedding attire, meaning he has not embodied these principles. And so what does the guy do? He kicks him out. You're not ready for this jelly. You're not ready for what is available. You're only putting on appearances. Right? And so he is sent away, and there's gnashing of teeth. Make sense? Yeah. So where are we, my beloveds? Where are we in this story? Where are you in this story? Where are we as a community in this story? Are we opening up and welcoming in the multitudes? Here in New Thought, I would say, yes, we are. I would also hazard a guess that here at Riverside CSL, yes, we are. Look around you. Look at this room. The people sitting with you. The beloveds sitting with you. Amazing. How beautiful it is. And there are people who have come through the community, right? Who are like the gentleman who is escorted out of the wedding banquet, who have chosen because, wait, you're going to hold me responsible for my own spirituality? You're not just going to feed me what I'm supposed to think? You mean I get to be responsible for my community? I get to take responsibility for my life? I don't want that. I just want you to tell me what to do. But that doesn't work, does it? Work. They weren't ready for the deeper message, for the message of emancipation, for the message of empowerment, for the message of freedom. Which is that within each one of us, too, are those things, those shadow beliefs, those things that we have turned away from, that society may have discarded, those bits and pieces of ourselves we've been hiding, that we've been suppressing, so that we can feel accepted. There's those bits and pieces that Spirit has been inviting to the table, and yet our own brains, our own ideas think, oh, I gotta keep that hidden. I gotta keep that hidden. What if Sally sees that? What if Suzanne sees that imperfection? And so we keep stuff hidden. Guess what? It shows up anyway. Beach ball. Hold the beach ball underwater, right? Guess what happens? Eventually it's going to pop up, it's going to hit you in the face, right? And the thing is everybody else knows that you're holding a beach ball under the water. You're not fooling anybody, right? You're not fooling anybody. So this story, this parable also plays with our internal lives. It also plays into or illuminates our own internal thoughts, our own internal processes? Where are we being called to invite parts and pieces of ourselves to the table? Where are we being called to invite those places to come sit with us, to dine with us, to join us, so that we may experience a greater sense of our own wholeness? You see, it's both internal and external. It's what's going on in here and what's going on out here. How are you doing? Earl's good. Earl's good. So think about this for a second. What are we seeing happening in the United States right now? Division. There's a struggle between the idea of abundance and scarcity at play, right? Where political leaders are actively working to erode voting rights. Where districts are intentionally being manipulated to dilute the voices of black communities. Where wealth becomes increasingly concentrated while basic needs go unmet. Where immigrants, LGBTQ folks, people of color, and the poor are treated as threats instead of human beings. Where we're being called domestic terrorists. We're witnessing this scarcity consciousness operating collectively. But here at RCSL, we know and we affirm that we live in an infinite universe, a universe of infinite possibility and infinite inclusivity, which means that any system of exclusion, any system built on domination, any system built on fear or dehumanization is ultimately out of alignment with spiritual truth. And when systems consistently suppress voices, limit participation, concentrate power, or deny full humanity to entire groups of people, our spirituality, our new thought spirituality, requires us to pay attention. Because our spirituality doesn't allow us to escape from the world, our spirituality shows us how to transform the world. The answer to exclusion is not more exclusion. It's about expanding the table. It's about creating a society where people are seen, heard, protected, represented, and valued. A good neighbor invites people in. A good neighbor widens the circle. A good neighbor notices who has been excluded, who's been ignored or harmed, left outside the banquet hall, and chooses love anyway. And this table, this morning table, this family table, expands every time you and I choose love and compassion for one another. So I'm going to invite you now to go to the tables and let's have a discussion. All right? The questions for us to discuss this morning are as follows. Lyndon, can you put the questions on the screen for me, please? Go wrong direction. Backity back, back. Back, 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 back. One more. One more. There we go. All right. So the questions for the tables here are, who or what still needs an invitation to the table? What becomes possible when we trust abundance instead of affirming scarcity? And who will you invite to join us at the morning table next week? be thinking about that question too. So I invite you to break the tables, and let's have a discussion around this. And yeah, let's chat. And for those of you at home, we invite you to join Dinah in the room, in the Zoom room, at the Zoom table. So go for it. Your homework for this week is as follows. Extend the invitation. Invite somebody to the morning table. Reach out to someone who may feel disconnected. Include somebody new. Make room emotionally, spiritually, or physically for another person. So actually invite somebody to join you next week. Bring them with you. And then for extra credit, which is not listed here, but for extra credit, notice where scarcity narratives show up in media, politics, or conversation. And when you hear these fear-based messages about who belongs and who doesn't, silently affirm there is enough dignity, belonging, and love for everyone. So, beloveds, core concept number 5 says that the universe is a universe of wholeness, allness, oneness. Spirit is a transcendent, perfect whole, and in its infinite inclusivity, harmoniously embraces all seeming opposites. Infinite inclusivity. That means Spirit already includes what we are still learning to welcome. So perhaps the question for the day is a simple one. What still needs an invitation? Where have I unconsciously excluded? What part of myself have I pushed away? Where have I believed in the lie of scarcity? Where am I afraid that there won't be enough? And what would happen if we trusted abundance instead? What would happen if we lived like love is infinite? What would happen if we stopped guarding the table and started extending it? The divine keeps setting a larger table than what we expect. Every time we make room for one more person, every time we widen belonging, and every time we choose generosity over fear, we reveal God right here at the table. And so it is. So I invite our practitioners and core council to please stand and surround the sanctuary space. And let's come together in consciousness. I'll give them a second there. So knowing right here and right now, there is one power, one presence, one infinite eternal life that is in all, through all, as all. It is the ever-givingness of Spirit. It is infinite. It is eternal. It is boundless. It is the one source, the one supply, the one substance that has brought forth all of life and all of creation, and it is the same source and substance, this infinite wisdom, this love, intelligence that maintains and sustains its beloved creation, withholding absolutely nothing. It is infinite in its generosity. And recognizing that this is all that there is, Spirit, God, the universe, is all that there is, I recognize that the very who of who I am is inseparable from it. That I must be the divine made manifest. I must be an impartation and an emanation of this one life, this one infinite abundance. The very who of who I am is Spirit, is source, is substance, is supply. And as I know that this is true of me, I know that this is true of everyone gathered here this morning. I know that this is true of all of life, all of creation. We are one with the one with one another, one with our good, and it cannot be denied. And so I speak my word here and now for this beloved community, Riverside Center for Spiritual Living, recognizing that right where we are, the table of abundance is laid before us. Right where we are, good already exists. And so we open to it. We allow it to flow through us, to flow as us, to flow in us, and out into the greater world, out into the greater community. We stand in faith, stand in trust, stand in knowing that we live in an infinite universe, that there is an infinite supply, that we are abundant beyond measure. And so we generously partake and we generously share. We share our love, we share our light, we share our compassion, we share the truth that we know to be, that we are all one. And so we come together in conscious union, in holy communion, to be about the business of spirit. And that is to be the power and the presence of love made manifest here and now. And so for this I do give thanks, for this realization, for this infinite abundance, for this infinite table at which we are seated. And I release this word now into the law, knowing it is done, knowing it is so, we let it be, and so it is. There is enough dignity, belonging, and love for everyone. Dignity, belonging, and love for everyone. Fantastic. Something wonderful is happening through me right now. It is this thing called love. Love is in my mind. Love is in my body. Love is in everything I do. I am it. I share it. I receive it. Because love lives here.